Caveman Lee. You're watching live on ABC's Wide World of Sports, and one of those in the ring right now is Mickey Goodwin, the young man who was supposed to have challenged for the middleweight championship against Hagler. It must be a relatively wistful moment for him. So while the procedure of gloving the fighters is go on, let's add to the story of Caveman Lee. As noted, moved from Philadelphia to Detroit to join Manny Stewart's organization. Obviously, it was a good move for him. He has run up a lot of KOs as the time has gone along. And even though he has been very successful with his 20 knockouts and his 21 wins, his opponents do not reflect genuinely a high marquee rating. But when a man comes in with that many knockouts, you know that he's dangerous. Let's have a look at him in action. Caveman Lee had little amateur boxing experience when he turned pro in 1976, but he did bring a natural punching power. Early days of his career, it was bang, bump, and gone. However, punching power alone was not enough, as he found out quickly against Frank Fletcher, a tough southpaw, who stopped him in decisive fashion in the 4th round. Lee rebounded in his next fight with a sensational win over Marcos Geraldo, who had lasted 10 tough rounds with both Ray Leonard and Marvin Hagler. Lee took Geraldo out in only 55 seconds of the 1st round. And his 5th round knockout of John LeCicero, considered by many to be one of the most exciting fights of 1981, and kept him in the hunt for the title. So for this 25-year-old, it's really just a matter of right time, right place for him. There was a story published by a New York newspaper that Lee had been knocked out during a training session with Thomas Hearns in Detroit. We put the question to the parties involved, and they have all denied it. And for Emanuel Stewart, I think there is a considerable risk involved here. What if Lee should land a thunderbolt and win the championship from Hagler? There's no way that he's going to be fighting Thomas Hearns, and the Stewart deal with Bob Arum for the Hearns-Hagler fight will be gone, and with it a lot of money. It might even raise the question of conflict of interest. Well, this is how Emanuel Stewart responds to that.
If Caveman Lee knocks out Marvin Hagler, I would be the happiest man in the world, because Thomas already is in a position where he's guaranteed some type of a championship fight within the next year anyway, regardless of what divisions. As a matter of fact, he's got 3 different divisions that he could go into. So if Caveman wins, it wouldn't hamper his plans at all. I think that he would just concentrate a little bit more on the rematch with Leonard, or possibly a fight with Benitez, the other junior middleweight champion, which is David Moore.
Comments of Emanuel Stewart. This fight scheduled for 15. Marvin Hagler, champion of both the WA and the WBC. A consolidation of those rules. 3 judges, and the referee will have no vote. The world middleweight champion standing there, Marvin Hagler, about to make his 4th defense of his title. He made 3 defenses in 1981 against Fulgencio Obel Mejias, knocked him out in 8 rounds in June. He defeated Vito Antuofermo in their rematch, knocked him out in 5. Mustafa Hamsho was knocked out in 11 in October of last year. And now the principals are about to be introduced for this afternoon's feature bout. Caveman Lee standing over the other way. You see, when you look at the sheet on this young man, his history is just one KO after another. But as I suggested to you, his opponents have not been of particular marquee rating. But he has taken on some tough people, in particular John LeCicero of Detroit last year. But here's the introduction of Caveman Lee. It was the win over Marcos Geraldo that jumped Lee up into the world rankings. And now here is the introduction of the champion, and it should get quite a roar from the crowd gathered here in this room. Some 2,000 of them.
2 wins, 2 losses, 2 draws, with 44 knockouts. Ladies and gentlemen, from back to mass, the undisputed middleweight champion, Marvin Hagler.
At the peak of his career right now, and hopeful that everything can be worked out. Here are the instructions from the referee, Larry Hazard. As the tail of the tape shows here, Hagler gives away an inch in reach. He gives away a pound and a half in weight. He gets 2 inches in reach, giving away 1 in height. The age is 29 for Hagler and 25 for Lee.
Do you have any questions?
So that formality is concluded. The judges are Paul Cavalieri, Joe Cortez, and Joe Santerpia. The referee Hazard, and remember, Larry Hazard does not have a ballot. The judges will do all the balloting, and we're ready to go. The World Middleweight Championship on the line. Marvin Hagler defending against Caveman Lee, a consolidation of the rules between the WBA and the WBC. The champion is a left-hander. Lee can go both ways. And the indication to us from the Lee camp was that he would try to come strong and try at the very beginning to upset the tempo of the champion. And he just scored with a good left hook to the side of the head of Marvin Hagler here in the early going. Stiff right hand by Hagler. Hard left hand. Lee goes down. Face down on the canvas. It was a left and a right and a left. And Lee's in trouble. Hazard takes a look at him. Lee says he's all right. He doesn't look it. He's wobbly. He's in trouble. A right hand, a left hook to the side of the head. And he is in serious trouble. A left hook to the jaw. Lee can barely stand. Another right hand by Hagler. Back into the ropes he goes. Hagler pounding Caveman Lee here in the opening round. Hagler said he didn't want it to go very long, and it's not going to go very long. It is over. Lee sags against the ropes. He's out of it. Marvin Hagler has knocked him out with 1:53 to go in the first round. And a crowd of people come storming into the ring. It took 1 minute and 7 seconds for Marvin Hagler to knock out Caveman Lee, and he has lifted onto the shoulders of the Petronelli brothers, Goody and Pat. A devastating performance by a man who has been particularly effective since he got his first title opportunity. And since that time, he has just been a dynamite performer. After the draw with Anafermo, he came back to destroy Minter before the hostile crowd in London. And today, it was all Hagler. There was a left hook thrown by Caveman Lee that caught the champion on the side of the head in the first 15 seconds. And then the champion laced him with a hard right hand. Then he lunged across the ring, and he ripped him with a right and another left. And from that point on, Lee was never to shake it. He went down on his face, got up, but it was obvious that he was terribly unsteady. Larry Hazard let it go. Another angle of the first knockdown. You can see the lunge across the ring by the champion Hagler, and that left hook ripped to the chin, and for all intents and purposes, the fight was over right there. You see the hard right hand, and this is the finish right here. Here's the end of the fight coming up, because at this juncture, Lee did not really know where he was. Hagler had him stunned from the first knockdown, and at this point, it was a matter of when he was going to go. And under the fusillade of punches delivered by Marvin Hagler, Lee sags down against the ropes, and the referee, Larry Hazard, will step in to stop it before the man is injured. You can see that the will to fight in Caveman Lee's case is gone right here. He is looking for some place to hide, literally to regain his senses, but there is no place to go as Hagler pursued him across the ring and just continued to pummel him until finally he was down and the fight was stopped at 1:06 of the opening round.
The World Boxing Association presented to him by...
So it was a moment of despair, I'm sure, as you look at Caveman Lee as Hagler keeps his championship. The champion now is trying to make his way through the crowd of well-wishers and come down and join us here at ringside. He scarcely got warmed up. 1:06 of the first round, a devastating knockout of William Caveman Lee here in Atlantic City, and so he continues to look on toward the future, a future that is supposed to include Thomas Hearns and perhaps Benitez, and even more dramatically, perhaps Sugar Ray Leonard. That is the fight that I think much of the world